Welcome to the BC Wine Show. I'm Marnie Martin with Vista Wine Group, and I'm interviewing some of BC's top, most successful winemakers and industry pros on how and why they do what they do and what they're up to next. So grab yourself a glass of wine, and I'll see you on the inside.
My guest today is Brett Thiessen, the manager of Viticulture for West Kelowna's prestigious Mount Boucherie Winery and sister winery, Rust Wine Co. Their brand new 15,000 square foot visitor tasting center and dining lounge is set to become one of the grandest winery experiences in BC. Thanks for being with me today, Brett. I really appreciate having a few minutes to chat with you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you via Zoom, but next time we'll have to do this in person at the winery, I think.
Yes, for sure. I was up there this summer, and you guys have got some incredibly new stuff going on up there, and I was really super impressed with the new facility.
Yeah, thanks. We've been kind of living the dream up there. I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but what we've been doing in the last couple of years, probably the last 6 years or 5 years, is Mount Boucherie has brought on new ownership, and with that, we've kind of started fresh. So we've got new vineyard managers, which is myself, new winemakers. We have Jeff Hundertmark, who came to us from Niagara. And then we also have Ryan DeWitt, who's kind of his assistant, and he's also from Niagara. And then just kind of top down, the whole company has done a barrel roll, and we're running with a whole fresh crew of, actually, other than Jeff, Jesse, and Craig, who are the top three, I don't think we have a manager over 35 in the company. So we're running with a young crew and just trying to shake things up and kind of breathe some life back into Mount Boucherie.
That's awesome. And obviously it's working because the brand new facility is, I think you guys called it a visitor center, dining lounge, and private tasting room is what you have it on your website.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the best of all worlds. We've got rooftop patio. We've got the Modest Butcher, which is our restaurant with a huge wraparound patio with a great view, kind of looking to the southeast over Okanagan Lake. For anyone that has been to Mount Boucherie before, it's probably, you'd remember that the original tasting room was about the same size as this office.
Yeah, I remember that.
And now that doesn't even, hold a candle to what we're doing in this new 14,000 square foot wine experience center. And then we've got the tasting room downstairs with private barrel room. And then we've got tastings on the lawn and in the wine shop as well. So we've really opened up our options, and things have been shaken up nicely.
Yeah, it's quite a spectacular building. Tell me a little bit about the private barrel room. Is that being utilized quite a lot?
Well, right now, because group sizes are limited due to, the current climate in the world,
Right.
6 people look kind of silly in there. But we have our summit room, which is our private room, and it's got a very large table down the center of it and giant TV. So for corporate events or for, small private events, you can throw whatever you want on the TV, and we can also offer some service, I believe, from the restaurant as well down there. So it's a great spot to have a nice intimate meeting with, 12, 15, 20 people. But it's, we use it for doing small terroir tastings with certain tour groups, or with, if VIPs come through, or, someone just asks if they can go in there. We can sometimes fit them in as long as it's not booked. But it just kind of really brings in that experience of something special when you're surrounded by these giant punch-ins and you've got this room to yourself and you've got pictures of our vineyards popping up on the big screen, and it just really elevates the experience.
Absolutely, for sure. And I'll probably put some photos in here too of that so that people can see what it looks like. Yeah. So let's dial it back a little bit. We'll get back to Mount Boucherie, but let's start with you and let's talk about how you got into the wine world and maybe where you've been and how you ended up at Mount Boucherie.
It's been a lot of years of tripping over my feet, trying to find that career path that I really wanted to stick to and make a name for myself in. Fresh out of high school, I got involved in working in trades, coming up, growing up on a farm. Dad always wanted me to be, a carpenter or a mechanic or something so I could help out a little more. But I think the end result of my current job helps just as much. So while building a restaurant back in my hometown, Red Deer, Alberta, I just asked the owner, are you looking for any staff? And he said, sure. So I quit my job as a carpenter, and I wasn't having much fun anyway. And, just kind of got involved in the restaurant industry. And I was supposed to be his dishwasher. And on my first shift, I became a prep cook. On my third shift, I was a line cook. by the end of that month, I was kind of helping run the line with one of the other new guys, and restaurants kind of just sparked that passion. And Red Deer's not really known as like a hub for great wine. Well, it definitely wasn't at the time. It's growing now
Yeah.
a little bit. So we'd get off shift and we would just, drink the heels out of the terrible wine that was on the bar. And that was kind of my introduction to it. So I always thought wine was just, that time filler drink, and that gave you wicked hangovers. But then a couple of years later, kind of elevated into a different side of the restaurants. I became an assistant GM and a GM for a larger company. And with that, I started drinking a little bit better wine. And then my ex-fiance, her stepdad opened the first really good bottle of wine that I ever had. And I kind of went, oh, this is what it should be. Like, it's not all just that, bottom shelf wine. And that was kind of where my opinion and my sights changed with wine. So I started drinking better wine, learning about wine. I found a really small kind of boutique wine shop in Calgary called Britannia Wine Merchants. And Steve Goldsworthy, the manager there, kind of said, you're young, you're ambitious, I need help. Come on in. So then I started drinking, 80 plus wines, different wines a week from all over the world, and really putting it together that this is what the difference of terroir and where the country comes from, where it comes from, and what kind of grapes they are. It just really kind of started to blow my mind. And it was 4 years ago, I had won a trip to Germany through selling Riesling. And that was the first time I'd ever stepped foot at a vineyard or at a winery. And it just kind of, my mind melted. And as soon as I got home from that trip, I just started looking for a job in the industry that I could, cut my teeth and come learn. And, it's that kind of old adage that you need experience to get hired, but you can't get experience without getting hired. Another winemaker from the Okanagan came in, and I said, hey, what are the odds you'd hire someone that doesn't know what they're doing? And he said, oh, I do that all the time. I said, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And I showed up 2 weeks later, and he was kind of like, oh man, I didn't think you were serious. So let's find you a job. Wow. So and now I'm just midway through my 4th season right now in the Valley. And it's been a roller coaster of just saying yes to things I am not qualified for or educated for, and just showing up every day and making sure it's getting done. So I'm really fortunate that the place I started out with gave me the opportunities and the knowledge they did. And then for Mount Boucherie, reaching out, looking for someone young and ambitious and ready to make mistakes and learn from them. They've given me a heck of an opportunity here. And when I originally moved out here, I started working in the cellar, and I really liked it. I could do the job. I did my first harvest in the cellar, but I just kind of had more of a knack for the farming side of things, coming from a farm. Being able to drive a tractor, that's something, I mean, a lot of people can drive a tractor, but driving a tractor well and not taking every fence post out or breaking everything, that's what defines, viticulture a little bit, is, being able to not destroy the tools you're given. So when I was buying and selling wine in Calgary, I kind of thought organics was just a buzzword that people would put on their bottle, and they'd get that extra $2 or $3 out of it because they had this fancy sticker on the label. So when I moved out here to work at an organic winery, I said, prove to me the difference. Like, I want to be proved wrong.
Yeah.
And it was basically, they handed me a shovel and took me to a conventional vineyard, an organic vineyard, and just the proof is in the soil. So right there, they got me they made me a believer, and now I'm just, leaning into it hard. And although we're not certified organic at Mount Boucherie, I can confidently say since I've taken over, we've sprayed 0 synthetic, 0 systemic. We're trying to farm, another buzzword, sustainably, but really that's a real thing. Like, we want to manage our water inputs, how we're spraying and adding nutrients to our vines. There's a lot of things that go into, having a more pure product that you can really be transparent about what's going into your vineyard, that's going into your wine, that's going to your consumer.
I think a lot of people really don't understand, like you say. I think it feels, or has felt in the past, a little bit like a buzzword, but I think so many more winemakers and viticulturists are leaning into that because of just the planet in general. So it's really cool to see. And you've bitten off a really big chunk with that. What you've got, I think you've got 4 different vineyards and 200 acres? Is it something like that?
We've got, currently we've got our 8 acres in West Kelowna. We've got 40 acres in the center of Okanagan Falls. We've got another 10 acres on the Golden Mile Bench. We have 80 acres producing in South Coston, so just kind of right up off the border. And then I just broke ground on another 80 acres in fall. So we're a little over the 200 mark on 5 properties, but we won't see fruit from the new one for a couple of years. As well as that, consulting for a few other growers that we buy fruit from. And just trying to clean things up. And farming with a purpose, which is one of the biggest things. A lot of people can grow grapes in a lot of places, but not every grape makes sense just anywhere. So we're looking at some of our vineyards, like Okanagan Falls, for example. We pulled out about 8 acres of Ehrenfelser and a few other grapes that just, they don't do this terroir justice. If you've got Blue Mountain and Meyer and Synchromesh and Liquidity right beside you, why aren't you growing high caliber Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Riesling? There's obviously something going on with them. So we wanted to, follow suit with our neighbors and just kind of, chase what they're doing, which to me, those are some of the wineries I look up to and admire, their staff, their history. And so it feels good to be in the neighborhood and trying to do what they're doing.
Yeah. And I love that. I think the phrase that you use is farming with nature instead of against it. And that makes all the difference, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things you can go out every day looking to kill something or change something, or you can look at what the soil's telling you. You can look at what the pest is telling you, and you can see what's going on. Basically, May 9th, when I came on board, we just dropped everything that wasn't listed as an organic product. Right. So I look at it like the vineyards are kind of like a bunch of little meth addicts, where you make them go clean right away. And there was a bit of a panic. We had some shatter in our clusters, and some of the vines were, waiting for their smack. They wanted their fertilizer, they wanted their sprays, and they weren't getting it. So this year they're slowly waking up and getting out of that, and they're finding, I just need to dig my roots a little deeper and I can find what I need. And we're adding compost. We've got our own compost program started now. It's not quite big enough to do all of our property, but we're just trialing it and making sure that the numbers make sense and that it's going to work on our 40 acres. And then we'll elevate that and put it onto some of our bigger sites as well.
Fantastic. That sounds like you guys are really starting from the ground up, doing some amazing things. Question for you about the wines. Do you intermix the different grapes from the different vineyards, or do you keep just one vineyard to create a particular varietal?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, we've got our sister winery, Rust Wine Co. on the Golden Mile Bench. There we like to focus more on single vineyard, single varietal, terroir driven. We do next to no blending. Every once in a while we'll just do it because we've got the fruit. But we really try and focus on this block, this grape, this time goes into this bottle. With Mount Boucherie, there's a little bit more wine making. So Jeff does a lot of blending from Similkameen to Okanagan, and he can, make those meritage blends, and he can kind of create his wines, which are killing it lately. Like, we just can't hold on to them. So that's a good problem to have.
That's a great problem to have. That means you're doing something right. That's for sure. And I know you guys also do different tiers of your wine. So let's maybe talk a little bit about that and what's different about each tier. I think you've got the white label, the reserve, and then you've got the Summit and Contessa. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about what's different about those.
So we would put kind of Contessa as the crown jewel. That's at the top of it. We make very little of it. It's a special blend that we make. I don't even know the number on how many cases. It's pretty small though, and it's just kind of our, I would say it's kind of the golden child, where it's just, look at what we can do. It's kind of that, you've got all these wineries around us that have their big bad wine, and that's ours. And then we've got our Summit, which is kind of we make a little bit more of it than the Contessa, but that's kind of I call it the Washington Meritage. It's got Merlot, Cab Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, and then a little bit of Syrah. So it's not quite your typical Meritage. But that's kind of our, more affordable, elevated high end. And then we've got our reserve labels. So those ones aren't really breaking the bank, but it's just, those are the ones that Jeff goes through and he picks the best barrels from the best blocks. And he just really focuses on getting the best fruit to shine on its own. And then we've got also the white label. So that's, the other stuff that is still really high quality. We'll do some of it as blends, the stuff that can stand out on its own. A lot of people love our Merlot and our Syrah, so we keep enough of that so that we can do those as single varietal. And then we also just have a few kind of our entry level, lower price point, like let's just get people involved with Mount Boucherie, and then they can choose to step up from there. And then when we open the new facility, we also release 2 new labels of wine. So we release the Modest wines, which are made exclusively for the Modest Butcher. We do sell those in the wine shop, but those won't go out into retail or into the rest of the world.
Perfect.
We don't make those wines every year. There's 1 or 2 of them that might stay on as kind of the staples that people are loving them, and we are capable of making them the same year to year. But the other goal with that is that if we can find a cool block of fruit from somewhere, we'll buy a little bit of that fruit, we'll make something special. So year over year, those Modest wines will change and evolve with what's kind of going around and what we can find. And then we've also released the original vines, which are basically a tribute to the oldest blocks that we have. We have certain blocks going back into the mid to late 70s. We still have fruit coming off those. And so we just kind of pay homage to what's coming in off that. So we've got Old Vines Gewürztraminer, Cabernet Sauvignon, Semillon, Chardonnay. I think there's one more, but off the top of my head, can't recall. So
that's okay.
Yeah, so we actually have a lot of different wines now, and then you partner our sister winery on top of that, and we have a lot to do, and we're getting into that time of year where it's all got to start getting done. So that's
perfect. It is exciting. Sounds great. I personally had a great experience when I was up at Mount Boucherie this year. I didn't get a chance to eat in the restaurant though. So maybe tell me a little bit about what you can expect to see on the menu at the Modest Butcher.
Oh man. Well, in the name Modest Butcher, you got to assume there's going to be a lot of meat options. We've got your 32-ounce tomahawk. We've got your California cut sirloins, tenderloins. We've got double cut pork chops, steak frites. And then we've also got on the lighter side of things, local ingredients in a lot of our salads that we do, a few vegan, vegetarian options as well. We do a vegan BLT that is pretty amazing for fake bacon. I'm convinced. And then a lot of just really elevated starters, like the appetizers kind of punch above their weight class. Chef Dan Karkner, he came to us from Jack's downtown Kelowna, and he's just a wizard. We've got, anything from that drink now wine to the sit on it for a couple of years, and he's got something that can go with any end of that spectrum. Normally when you go to a lot of these winery restaurants, the only thing on the menu is that winery's wine. And we kind of wanted to shake that up a little bit, so we got a different license for it. And now we've got an amazing cocktail program. We carry local beers. We've got we're looking at throwing out a international wine list just so you can try your big Bordeaux next to our summit and see where the difference is and what you prefer. And it's just kind of, we want to offer a little bit of something for everyone. We want the guy that gets off work on Friday at 4:00 to feel comfortable walking into our winery and having a beer. And we want someone that's coming with the group that he's not a wine taster. Well, go grab a cocktail. So a little bit of something for everyone.
Excellent. I was going to actually ask you about that because that is quite unique to have other wines on the menu, especially from a particular winery. So that's, obviously something you guys put some thought into. So that's awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys have some amazing things going on. So if you haven't had a chance to go to the Mount Boucherie Winery, make sure you stop in and make it part of your West Kelowna excursion. And I have one more question for you, which is always at the end of the show. And it's what's in your glass? What are you drinking that is not being produced at either Rust or Mount Boucherie?
Well, the wine that got me into wine that made me take it more serious happens to be Blue Mountain Reserve Pinot Noir. It's the wine that I collect every year, every vintage when they release their Reserve Pinot. I pick up a case of the 750s and the Magnums. And, anytime I get a chance to open one of those up, I go for it because I think that's one of the more impressive, expressive wines, and really anything Blue Mountain. And now they're pretty much my next door neighbor. So that's trouble, but at the same time, I'm pretty fortunate. So I'd have to say that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I think we all got to learn a little bit more about some of the new practices from the new staff up there. And I'll look forward to seeing some more great things come out of your vineyard.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me and for the chat. It's a nice break today.
Awesome. Have a great day, and we will catch up with you again soon.
You as well. Thank you.
And now, I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question for a future guest or a comment, please put it in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and the big red subscribe button right down below. Thanks for joining us today on the BC Wine Show. And until next time, stay well, be kind, and enjoy responsibly.